Hello, my name is Ava B, and today I'm going to be talking about 21 books that I want to read in 2021, some of which are new releases, most of which are books that I've been wanting to read for months now and still haven't gotten to. To begin, I'm going to talk about what I believe to be is my most anticipated book of the entire year, and that book is She's Too Pretty to Burn by Wendy Hurd. It is a young adult sapphic psychological thriller set in San Diego and is inspired by the picture Dorian Gray. It sounds like everything I could possibly want from a book. However, despite the fact that I think it's my most anticipated book and it sounds like something I would absolutely love, I think that thrillers are very polarizing, so I'm not expecting to absolutely love it. I'm not expecting to hate it. I'm just going into it with an open mind, hoping that it'll be incredible. I think a few months ago when I first found out about it, the first chapter was available to read for free on some sort of website article, and just off the first chapter alone I was really interested in the story, and I think that the writing sounded very interesting, and I'm all here for it. I'm excited. I'm very excited. And it is coming out on March 30th, and I want to get my hands on it as soon as I can. The next book is a little bit of a strange pick because it is the third and final book of a trilogy in which I have not read any of the books in, and it's Act Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert, which is the third book in the Brown Sisters romance trilogy. I'm thinking of waiting until Act Your Age, Eve Brown is released so that I can do a reading vlog reading all three of the books in quick succession, because I feel it in my soul that I'm going to, at the bare minimum, enjoy them. The premise for Act Your Age, Eve Brown is probably the most interesting to me personally out of the three, and it's an opposites attract romance between Eve, who is a very outgoing ? And the owner of a bed and breakfast, who I believe is very serious. And Eve is looking for a job, and then she applies for a job at this bed and breakfast ran by Jacob, which is the guy's name, and she accidentally hits him with her car, and then things spiral from there. And oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to read all three of the books. And the release date is March 9th, which is very soon. The next book is a sequel to a book that I finished 2 days ago, and I am dying to get my hands on it. And that book is Our Violent Ends by Chloe Gong, which is the sequel to These Violent Delights. I'm not going to go too much into detail about what I liked about These Violent Delights because I filmed the process for a reading vlog, which will be coming to you soon, but I will say this. I enjoyed it, and I want the sequel now. These Violent Delights is a young adult Romeo and Juliet retelling set in 1920s Shanghai between two members of opposing gangs. And it is coming out on November 16th, which is far too far away for my liking. I want it now, but I am willing to wait. The next book is yet another romance that has already been talked about a lot and is probably on most people's lists of most anticipated books for 2021, but that book is One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston, who is the author of Red, White, and Royal Blue, which I read last year and thought was very, very good. I am so excited to get another book from them. I'm sorry if there's a common theme of me just saying I am so excited, because these are all books that I am excited to read. It is a sapphic romance about a girl named August who meets a girl named Jane on a subway train, but then she realizes that Jane is stuck in the 1970s, so there's like time travel-y stuff. I think it's gonna be just as good as Red, White, and Royal Blue, if not better, and it is coming out on June 1st. The next book is Ace of Spades by Farida Ebike Iyamide. It is a young adult mystery thriller set at a private boarding school. I forgot to mention the actual plot of this book, which is that there is an anonymous texter that goes by the name of Aces who is anonymously releasing information on the only two black students at this elite private school, and I believe it has dark academia vibes, which I love. I love me some good dark academia. And its release date is June 1st in the US and June 10th in the UK. And the final new release that I'm looking forward to is My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. And Stephen Graham Jones is also the author of The Only Good Indians, which I have. I haven't read it yet, but I am going to be picking this up very, very soon. My Heart is a Chainsaw is a horror novel that follows a girl named Jade who begins to feel like she's in a slasher movie as people start disappearing from her town. I'm hooked. I'm already hooked. You reeled me in. I'm hooked. I'm a fish. I'm hooked. But the premise definitely intrigued me, even if it was quite brief, and it is being released on August 31st. Now it's time to move on to the books that are already published that I want to read in 2021. I'll be honest, you probably already know most of them. A lot of them are books that I've discovered from them being talked about a lot in the book community, most specifically BookTube. If you have read any of these already and enjoyed them, please gently encourage me or strongly encourage me to read them. A lot of these, if I had a copy of them, I would read them immediately, but I get most of my books used from thrift stores. I should probably just use the library more, but I need to renew my library card, and it's been how many months? Way too many. Next is I'll Be Gone in the Dark, which is a true crime book that covers the Golden State Killer case. I want to start reading more true crime books because I already consume so many documentaries, podcasts, YouTube videos on it, but I've never dabbled in books, and I think that there is probably so many out there that will add a whole new level to understanding a certain case. The next book is The Little Friend by Donna Tartt. I have read both The Secret History and The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. I think I would go far enough to say that those books both changed my life in different ways. The Little Friend is the one book by Donna Tartt which I haven't read yet. I feel like I need to read it. I read The Goldfinch in 2019, I read The Secret History in 2020, and it's only right for me to read The Little Friend in 2021. Next is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. In 2020 I read Circe by Madeline Miller, and I'll be honest, not my favorite, but that is 100% a personal thing, and I definitely do see why people love that book so much. But The Song of Achilles has always appealed to me more than Circe. I just happened to pick Circe up before reading The Song of Achilles. Moving on, I want to read The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang, which is a fantasy, which fantasy is not my fave. Considering how many people love fantasy out there, I definitely have heard of many books, and The Poppy War is one of them that has managed to grab my attention, and I am 100% willing to pick it up, even if I may not enjoy it, because it sounds that interesting. The next book is a 2020 release that I was not made aware of until people started talking about how incredible it is, and that is The Death of Vivek Oji, which tells the story of a man named Vivek Oji who dies, and then it follows both his personal story and the stories of his family members and friends, I believe, and how his death affects them. Definitely sounds like something I would enjoy. Based off what I've heard other people say, it sounds incredible. Next two books, but I'm counting them as one, is Get a Life, Chloe Brown, and Get a Hint, Dani Brown, which I've already talked about. We'll be reading these. The next two books are both memoirs. The first one is Know My Name by Chanel Miller, who was the victim of an infamous sexual assault case at Stanford. I've heard so many people say that this book has some of the best writing that they've ever read, and that the story is so incredibly moving. I don't read too many memoirs, but I definitely think that I want to pick this one up. And the next book is In the Dream House, which tells the story of the author's experience in an abusive relationship, but it's told while using multiple common horror elements such as a haunted house, I believe, I assume ghosts, things like that. I've also heard that this has incredible writing and that it blends fiction and nonfiction seamlessly. Both of these memoirs I want to read so badly. Next is The Devil All the Time by Donald Ray Pollock, which is a horror novel that was made into a movie in 2020. I don't know too much about it other than it is set in the South. I think that there are multiple characters and possibly multiple timelines, but I'm not entirely sure. It sounds very atmospheric and dark, like every other horror book written before. Sounds like my type of horror that I typically like. Although I don't entirely know what I like of the horror genre, which is something that I want to explore in 2021. It's many different horror books. Next is one of the most talked about books of 2020, which I have yet to read, and that is The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. I read The Mothers, which is Britt Bennett's debut, in 2020, and it was okay. It didn't affect me emotionally how I think it was intended to, or how other people have been. I gave it 3 stars, but I think I'm gonna like The Vanishing Half a lot more. Next, I want to read Loveless, which is Alice Oseman's most recent novel. I love Alice Oseman a lot, and I can't believe I've yet to read their most recent book. It's a young adult contemporary that follows a teenage girl named Georgia who I believe is attending university, and she discovers what asexuality is and what that label means to her. And I think that there are also multiple side characters that she just becomes friends with, and it sounds like everything I love about Alice Oseman's books. Alice Oseman is one of my favorite writers of all time, and I think that she is a master of the young adult contemporary. In the trend of young adult contemporaries, in 2021 I want to read With the Fire on High and Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. Last month, January, I read The Poet X and I thought it was so good, and in my January wrap-up I said I want to read everything else written by Elizabeth Acevedo, so no surprise that they made it on this list. I think that the premise of With the Fire on High appeals to me the teeniest bit more, so I might pick that one up first. Based off of how much I enjoyed The Poet X, I think that I'm going to enjoy anything Elizabeth Acevedo writes. The next book is, shockingly, another fantasy, and that is The Priory of the Orange Tree, which I do not know too much about this. I'll be honest, I know there's dragons. I know that there is a sapphic romance. I know that I think that there's a lot of politics involved. I don't know, there's something about this that has appealed to me. Maybe it's just when people saying it's good, because clearly I don't know the plot very well. I want to read it even though it's so long. It's so long and it's high fantasy. It's probably gonna make my brain hurt from trying to comprehend all of it, but hey, try new things. Maybe I'll discover that I love fantasy this year. I need to repeat this. I don't have a vendetta against fantasy. It's just that I much prefer reading like contemporaries or thrillers or horror. And finally, I have a sci-fi, which is out of the blue for me, and it is This Is How You Lose the Time War, which tells the love story between two different female agents, that are in a time war that takes place over space and time. And I'm fairly certain that the whole story is told through letters that they are leaving to each other, but I also might be wrong. Much like fantasy, I do not read a whole lot of sci-fi, but I definitely want to try this because it sounds like it'll destroy me a little bit. Just a little bit. There they are. Those are the 21 plus a few kind of maybe books that I want to read in 2021. If you're interested in seeing me talk about any of these books in the future of 2021, please subscribe because I will be reading at least some of these and making a lot of content about them. Realistically, I don't know if I'm gonna get to all of them, but I'm going to try my hardest. I'm going to make a prediction that there are going to be 3 5 stars on this list. Thank you so much for watching and goodbye.